Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll get the session started here. I have a few announcements to make. The first one is this session is being video recorded, so just need to let you all know that. We're the speakers, so if we get a question, we'll repeat it back so that everyone can hear it. We will have a little bit of time at the end of our talk, hopefully 5 minutes or so, to take some questions. We will have a mic that we can run around so that when you ask your question, everyone can hear it. There are some evaluation forms that you should have received, so please fill those out. Make sure that you make those really, think about the presenter and their future and stuff when you fill those out. But just kidding there. And then look for an email after the show, which will have the instructions on how to access the recording. And then the last instruction that I was supposed to give you, and I'll do it myself, put our phones on silent here. So, good deal. I think I got the announcements. So, welcome to Denver. Welcome to the Commodity Classic. My name is Joe Walsh. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Centera, and I'm joined here with my colleague, Eric Topoli, and we're going to talk to you today about an exciting new product we have called SmartScript Weeds. So, the purpose and the process and the payoff. So the purpose of today is to really make you aware of who Centera is, make you aware of what this product is and how it can be used on your farm. The approach we're going to use, we got about 10 slides we're going to go through. Between Eric and I, we're going to take turns presenting. We have a video that we'll roll, and so it'll be pretty straightforward. And we'll hopefully have some time at the end to take some questions from you all. And I think the payoff is you'll leave here with an understanding of, what this tool can maybe do for you in the future. And I think we're bringing some exciting weed control options, to you in the market. So before I introduce Eric and turn it over to him, I'll give you a little bit of my background. So, my journey into weed control, probably like a lot of folks of my generation, started walking beans on our small central Illinois farm. And that was sort of the state of the precision technology in about 1977. And there were times when I truly wondered if Dad had really incorporated the Treflan or if he had even sprayed it sometimes. But even as a small child, I can remember thinking there just has to be a better way to control these weeds. Flash forward about 15 years from that point, I'm now in my early 20s. I've just earned my master's degree in weed science. So I really did hate hoeing weeds out of fields, so I went and got a degree in it. I went to work for the University of Illinois, and by that point, we're in the early 90s, and there's options. There's the SU chemistry, the ALS chemistry. There are better ways to control weeds than we had in the 70s. Flash forward another 10 years, and I'm now at Monsanto, and I'm the Roundup Ready marketing manager for the eastern and southern United States. And again, we have more options to control weeds. But weeds do what weeds have always done, and weeds will continue to do. They are pesky, and so we are coming at this now, today, with a different approach. In addition to the traditional herbicide technology, we're thinking about how those herbicides get applied and being more precise with them. So I couldn't be any more thrilled. I just joined Centera about 4 months ago after spending a career at Bayer and Monsanto. And it's just been a real pleasure. This is an exciting product to work on. And so I'm going to now turn it over to Eric. Eric's the founder of the company. And I've learned over the last few months, he's been thinking about weeds for quite a while himself. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about Centera, our history, and this exciting product. So, Eric?
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everybody. I'm Eric Topoli. As Joe said, I'm the CTO of the business, and actually one of a group of about 5 founders that started this company 10 years ago or so. So we've been doing agriculture, precision agriculture for that time. Centera has always been about agriculture, but been doing drones and the software to process data from drones for a long time. The founding team came out of the defense aerospace industry. So we'll talk a little bit about our company, but a lot of the technologies that come into SmartScript that Joe's going to talk about rely on being able to do things quickly, being able to do things very precisely, being able to get to an answer very quickly. Those are things we learned over a long time and have brought into agriculture. Centera, the SmartScript is really exciting for us because it is about reaching into production agriculture probably through your trusted advisor, probably through your retailer, but getting out on the farm. A lot of what we do from an analytics perspective is working with breeding, working with phenotyping, working with seed production. So all of the big four are using Centera sensors, or they're using Centera analytics, or they're probably using both to take care of some of the most important field work that they do. And we do have a fairly significant commercial offer that I'll talk about later on, but the bulk of our revenue is with the enterprise. And SmartScript is a way for us to get back out into crop production, and we're really excited about that. So Centera, just quickly, is we are one of just a couple of American sensor manufacturers. Our hardware is made in the United States. We don't have any concerns about data security. You probably will get a question about drones and data security. We have great answers for that. Our stuff does not leave our ecosystem, and our data is quite secure, and our software and our hardware does come from the United States. So we've got, as it says here, almost 45 million acres of imagery that we process. Everything that we do really is centered around what can be done with very high resolution imagery and a combination of signal and image processing and AI to deliver an answer that makes the agronomist better. So we're really excited about SmartScript because it really brings together some of the most challenging technology problems to solve one of the most challenging, and you all know it is very challenging, agronomic problems, which is the emergence of herbicide-resistant weeds, regulatory pressure that probably isn't going to get any easier, and a pretty challenging environment in terms of new active ingredients not coming to market. So we're really excited to tell you how SmartScript provides a great answer to that. By way of introduction, I'm going to play a short video that just goes over kind of the highlights of SmartScript, and then Joe's going to come back up and talk a little bit more about the product. But thanks again for coming to see us.
Introducing SmartScript Weeds by Centera, the future of weed management. Experience the benefits of a precision spray solution without the significant upfront investment in equipment, achieving up to 70% savings on your post-emergence non-residual herbicide costs. Utilizing Centera's advanced DGR technology, drones can swiftly navigate over fields to identify and map weeds with high precision. These drones are capable of detecting weeds as small as 0.25 inches with an accuracy of over 95%. Within just 24 hours of drone takeoff, SmartScript Weeds delivers a targeted spray prescription. This timely and accurate prescription allows your sprayer to operate at optimal speeds, spraying only the weeds while achieving broadcast equivalent weed control. Armed with pre-application field insights into weed density, large-scale spray operators can optimize decision-making on tank mixes and volumes for maximum weed control, while strategically prioritizing fields for maximum time savings and logistics efficiency. Easily transfer the prescription to any sprayer equipped with nozzle-by-nozzle or section control, reducing your post-emergence non-residual herbicide costs by up to 70%, depending on the specific weed pressure of your fields. After harvest, leverage the SmartScript weed maps to optimize your pre-planned strategy for the next season, including selecting the right residual products. Too good to be true? During the 2024 season, Centera successfully flew over 13,000 soybean acres across the Midwest, delivering 99% of prescriptions within 24 hours from drone takeoff and over 90% of prescriptions before 6 a.m. the following day, with forecasted savings of 66% across fields with varying levels of weed pressure. Achieve a quick return on your investment with a more efficient and optimized weed management program through SmartScript Weeds. Visit our website to learn more.
So that was a really fantastic video that, in 2 minutes really encompasses, what this product was and is. And I think when we started this journey, the obvious sort of value driver that we felt like was the obvious one was being able to save on some herbicide costs. But I think the thing that we've learned that the drone flight gives you is prior knowledge. And I think even when I was coming to this meeting, I got an email here about 2 or 3 days ago that had my registration link, and it was called Know Before You Go. And it was very, very helpful to me. I've been to this conference, many years, and it still provided a value to me. I'm sure if this was the first time I had attended the commodity conference, that Know Before You Go would have been even more valuable. That same concept holds true here with SmartScripts. What we're seeing is because you get the weed data, so you get the height, the ranges, the densities, the species, you can obviously figure out which tank mixes you need to use, which adjuvants do you need to put in. Most, or at least some of the herbicide labels, as the weed height increases, typically the rate will increase. And so these are all critical pieces of data to make a really good, weed decision. Secondly, there's just a ton of fleet optimization. So whether you're, an ag retailer or whether you're a large farm and you're sending multiple sprayers out, or whether, frankly, you're just sending one out, knowing which fields to go to first, where do you need to prioritize? If you're using hot loads to send, mixed solution to the field, knowing how much to send where. These are all really, really valuable things that this prior knowledge can give you. And then obviously lastly, we believe there's just the smart savings because you're getting, hopefully a reduced herbicide, because you're only spraying where the weeds are and you're not spraying where the weeds aren't, which is delivering you some savings there. I'll hit these really quick because they were in the video, but the trials that we did last year really showed that we could do weed detection, really small weeds, quarter-inch weeds, and I think Eric would say his team's crowning achievement here is we're able to do that at scale. So we're able to process the images based on the way that we capture the images with our drones, and then we're able to return those prescriptions back to the operation within about 10 to 12 hours. And as the video said, 90% of those plus were delivered by 6 a.m. the next day. This is really key because, as you know, there's probably a very small window of time at which you're going to make that post-emergence application when the weeds have emerged, but they're not too big, to be killed by the herbicide. The other crowning achievement, and this is not trivial, is that we can get over 90 acres in about an hour. So this can keep up with a commercial spray rig, and that obviously scales with more drones. But one drone can do 90 acres per hour, and that does include, probably a battery change at mid-flight. And the potential savings here, 66%. I want to be really clear. That's basically the potential. Obviously, then the sprayer needs to execute. But what this is basically saying is that the fields, those 13,000 acres and 100 and some different fields across a wide range of geographies, there's quite a bit of area that really doesn't need to have herbicides applied to it. So exciting stuff for 24, and it gives us the confidence to do another trial this year in 25. So we are still pre-commercial. We're calling this a limited commercial release. And what we're doing new this year is we're bringing in a very select number of ag chem retails. We believe this is a very valuable product for ag retail as they're doing custom app, the prior knowledge, the ability to leverage some latent technologies on some of their existing sprayers. So we're inviting a select group of them to do some trials with us. We've added corn this year. So last year we did soybeans. So this year we'll include corn, and as long as your row spacing are 15-inch and wider, we're good to go. And we're also going to expand our footprint, get some more acres. We are working with a very small select group of farmers We feel like at Centera we really have to be connected to the farm. Ultimately, farmers are where and who we are going to have to provide value, and we're getting some excellent direct feedback. Our primary target market right now is the Corn Belt, and we'll do work and we'll continue to hopefully expand to the Cotton Belt in future years. So what I'd like to do now is bring Eric back up and have him talk a little bit about, you probably won't find too many more people on the planet that have been using drones to capture information and then turn that into usable insights. And so if you're sitting there as a farmer, and I know as a farm kid, the first question I had before I was going to come work at Centera is, are drones really going to have the utility on a farm that they need to have in order to do some of these tasks? And I think Eric can give you a really cool perspective on that. So Eric, turn it back over to you. Take us home.
So I'm a drone enthusiast, but I think I also want to be a drone realist. I think there is a perception that a drone is often synonymous with AI or machine learning, and there is an impression that everything is going to be automated. Drones are going to be taking over and driving direction on the farm. And I think that's probably not the right way to think about drones. The first real use case that we had a Purdue Extension advisor, PhD advisor, who's still a great customer and ambassador for us today. And the first time we walked out to the field with that customer, he said, "Oh, I forgot the hula hoops in the truck." And as people are smiling, so you know what's coming. He went back and got this neon pink hula hoop. He said, "I need the hula hoops," and he threw it as far as he could, and then not him, but his graduate student ran over and counted the number of plants in there, and then they did this 4 or 5 more times, and you know what he was doing. He was doing stand counts. And when we saw the in-field process of gathering data, because that's kind of representative of what goes on when a crop scout has to get a job done, has a limited amount of time to do it, that's where you should think about a drone coming in. A drone is a great way to know more and know faster and know more completely what's going on the field. It will tell you everything that goes on in the field. It isn't 2 or 3 spots to look and see, do I have disease pressure? You can cover the whole field and do it in a way that's economically viable. But the drone is just a data tool. It is a great data tool and an immediate data tool, and you see with SmartScript what that means is that the agronomist gets a view of that entire field. Where are the weeds? What species are the weeds? At what pressure and what stage of development are they? And they can adjust adjuvants and surfactants, and they can adjust active ingredients on the fly to deliver the maximum dose at the minimum price to achieve the efficacy that they need. And that's what a drone does. So there are analogs to that around insect detection, around harvest readiness, and so forth, and all of those use cases. But the drone, to be clear, and the AI, they're really solving the problems. We used to talk about drones doing the dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs, and that's exactly what they're doing. Nobody really wants to go chucking hula hoops around the field and running over and counting them. They just want the answer. Nobody wants to go scouting a field for insect pressure. They just want the answer. And it's those kinds of things that drones are really, really good at. So if you take the technologies that we can deploy at field scale that are resident in SmartScript, you can extrapolate that a long way. And we talk about this, we talk about a vision, which is really more than a vision because almost all of these products are actually commercially available today. But our view is that the advisor, the agronomist, the grower will be armed with a more and more continuous view and a less and less expensive view of field status and what's going on in that field all the time. And all of the management tasks that a grower has to think about, from pre-plant all the way to harvest and then planning for next year, are going to be driven by better data and more immediate data available more precisely. And that is what we are all about, SmartScript being a fantastic example of that. So we're really excited about SmartScript. We're really excited about the whole product line and really glad that we could come and talk to you about it today. So just recap here. Nobody likes weeds. We certainly don't. And It's becoming more and more difficult, as everybody knows, to manage to a certain level of weed control. The days of spray glyphosate on the field and the seed will take care of it are over, and more over, depending where you are in North America every day as herbicide resistance becomes more and more of a problem. It gets more expensive. The alternative chemistries and the alternative protocols, it's more expensive on a unit basis to achieve the equivalent level of weed control in today's environment. And SmartScript is a great way to take some of that chem cost off the field and lower the total cost of achieving an effective crop protection program for your fields, for your operations. So we're excited about the technology stack that we have. We hope that you'll come back. If you're not a participant in the early access program for 25, we'll come back and tell you how we did in 2025. We're pretty optimistic about how it's going to turn out. And then I think we're happy to, Joe and I are happy to take any questions that you might have. But thank you very much. And we can hardly see you, so
Yeah, we got lights like.
yeah.
Does the farmer own this equipment, or is this something that you will hire out to?
Want to repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question was who's going to own the hardware, the equipment, and who performs the service. Generally, for a grower that is large enough, they're probably already operating drones. They have people on staff that know how to operate drones. That would be fine. It's really easy. You kind of push a button and wait for it to come back. Most growers, I think about 70% of our served acres in crop production, they're getting this as a service. Whoever is doing their crop scouting, whoever's doing their advising, if it's retail, if it's an independent crop consultant, they're probably providing this as a service just because the capital investment into the equipment might not make sense unless there are enough acres in service.
How do you see this like fitting into like a seed spray premium ultimate program with clear like a logistics planning tool? Where like right now it's easy math, 80 acres, 1,200 gallons, 15 gallons. It's easy math to load, but with seed spray premium and ultimate, you never know how much fluid to spray to finish the field because you don't know which pressure. So how do you see this with a logistics planning tool versus a prescription planning tool?
Yeah, so the question is the proximal solutions like John Deere See and Spray. How do we see this fitting in and supporting? Do you want to take that, Joe?
Yeah. No, my opinion, it actually fits in very well. I think the SmartScript weeds can actually help enable, and I really truly don't believe. I think you could argue technically we're trying to do a similar thing, so therefore you are competitors. I really don't look at it that way. I look at it as being aligned on providing options for selective weed control, and so I see it as a huge opportunity. There's 400 million acres probably of broadcast herbicide applied in the U.S. There's just a lot of room for opportunity, and I think we help solve some of those functional challenges. So I think it's a great opportunity. What data's coming off board? So what data's coming off, and then what's the battery life?
So the questions are what are the outputs of the SmartScript system, and what about battery life, I presume, of the drone. So in order, what the customer receives is image. They'll get the imagery. Oftentimes they're not necessarily going to look at that, but really what they'll get is something that looks like a shapefile. It is a shapefile, and that contains polygons where the weeds are present, and then it contains an identifier that identifies the species and the growth stage of the weeds. If we do species ID, we do species ID for 5 broadleaf weeds, and then we identify grasses as a separate class of weeds entirely. So they get that. Those 2 data products, and that's the output to SmartScript. In terms of battery life, that 94 acre number that you saw, that includes time to come back and swap batteries. So the platform that was used, 2 platforms that were used this year, the DJI M350 I think is about 38-minute battery life, and the Inspired Flight IF800, which is an American-produced drone, has about a 26-minute battery life between swaps. Yeah, the question was, do we have a 15-inch row limitation? And that's true. If the crop is spaced tighter than that, we just might miss them. They're too close, so if we're looking obliquely from the air, we don't want to miss a weed that's shaded by the row next to it. So 15 inches is where we've trained all of our models for weed detection.
So to follow up on that, what are your row width restrictions, and are there crop stage restrictions?
You want to take that?
Yeah, so the question was the row widths and then height, basically, of crop. So on the row width, it's 15 inches. So anything 15 inches and wider, we'd be okay with. And in terms of crop height, you know, I'm gonna try to answer it two ways. One, in order to get sound weed control, we're gonna be fine because the crop's gonna be, you know, at a stage that we'll be able to see it just fine. If we start thinking about rescue treatments, where you know the beans are, you know, getting big, that's probably some work we probably need to continue to do. But if you think about the practical, when you would spray either corn or beans in a post situation, the crop height will be fine in a normal. You know, as long as the row haven't canopied, you know, we'll be fine. Yeah, so
We'll tag team it.
yeah, we'll tag team this one. So again, it's a little bit like my last answer. The crop heights from those results last year, they were, you know, probably 143 different fields at different ranges, and I don't know that I don't know if you do the maximum height and the minimum height, but the heights of the crops would have been at a time when you need to make a post application. So you're probably talking second trifoliate beans to third, fourth trifoliate beans. And in terms of the altitude, you know, we're 90 to 100 feet is kind of what we fly at. So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so we're flying at an altitude with this particular sensor to get a 1.5 millimeter per pixel image. So we're imaging the whole field with 1.5 millimeters of resolution, and that's because we had a requirement to detect a 6 millimeter weed, which we ended up doing. So as Joe said, that for that particular payload package, that's about 80 feet off the ground.
Can the drones run at full throttle?
Yep. So the question is, what resolution do we need to get that, or what resolution do we need to achieve that at that altitude, and can we run at full throttle? So very happy to answer this. Centera is the largest supplier of ag-specific sensors for drones. We're pretty good at it, we think. And this is a 130 megapixel payload package that is ours. And it is designed, it comes out of our phenotyping business unit, so it is a very fast camera. As fast as that drone can fly, we can take pictures. That's how we get to that 90 acres per hour at 1.5 millimeters. And we can turn that and do the detection on the field, and that's how we get that turnaround time to just a few hours.
How many images per acre are you taking, and what's your computer software on the backside to process this, and how many gigabytes of RAM does it take to process this data that quickly?
So the question is basically about data throughput, and I'm probably going to give you an incorrect answer that I'll probably want to come in. So I'm going to be plus or minus 20%. I believe it ends up being at 1.5 millimeters for the twin 65R payload. I think it's about 80 images per acre. If you're familiar with drone workflows, this is a little bit different. This uses a Centera technology called direct georeferencing. So obviously, we're gonna figure out not only is there a weed there, but where is that weed? Because we've got to tell the sprayer, we got to give it that RTK guided sprayer the right polygon so it hits the weed, and that's got to be really tight. So the direct georeferencing technology, if you want to come over to our booth, I'll talk your ear off about it, but basically it allows us to capture data much more efficiently. If you are used to drone workflows, in a normal workflow, you really got to overlap images a lot front as the drone is flying and side to side because it has to go through some software processing to get the spatial accuracy. We don't do that because we build that sensor, so we've bypassed that with some hardware that I'm happy to talk about. So we're about 1/9 the typical data volume that you would associate with 1.5 millimeter imagery, or actually any other imagery at equivalent resolution. Because of that technology, I don't remember the gigabytes per acre, and I apologize. I'm sure we have that on the data sheet, but because of the way we're processing the data, as soon as it comes off of the sensor, is ready for us to go right into the deep learning. We don't have to go through an image stitching process. It goes right into the weed detection, and we have 1/9 as many bytes to process. I think in the back he was first. He's getting bypassed.
So, just to clarify, if I'm the retailer, I'm a retailer, are we flying or are you flying?
Good question.
We believe at scale, the retailer's flying. We've got an awful lot of retail customers that are flying our sensors as part of their normal crop scouting offer to the grower. We do offer it. We do have flight services. It is our belief that it is a service that the retailer will provide.
Okay, so say we fly then with your sensors, you process the data or it's processed on our computers?
Because there's an edge, it is edge processing. If you want, you can do the processing locally at the retailer, or it can be done by Centera as well, and we can just push back the answer either way.
And then as a retailer, is it too late to get access for a trial this year, or is it going to have to be 2026?
You have to talk to the chief growth officer over here.
Yeah, we are getting real tight. Maybe let's connect afterwards. And so yeah, let's just connect and we'll see if we can squeeze you in. We've got one
There's
hand.
the gentleman
Yeah.
in the back
He's
who's been trying earnestly.
Yeah, we can see him, but nobody else can.
Hey, have you guys worked out a pricing structure yet? Are we doing it like acre subscription? Nobody's asked, so I figured I would.
Yeah, no, we've been thinking a lot about it. So we're still pre-commercial. We haven't announced pricing yet. We're looking at a couple approaches. We're looking at a per acre, which is probably, I know nobody wants to hear it, but it's probably the one that makes the most sense, and it's the one that's the most able to scale. And then it's probably based on the utilization of the technology, which feels probably the most fair and comprehensive way to do it. So that's about all I can answer right now. But yeah, we've been thinking a lot about it. I can share with you, because this is maybe not public information, but Centera did a real extensive market research study last summer, and it was a nice survey. It was a sample size of a couple hundred farmers. And at about $9 an acre, this becomes too expensive. And at about $6 an acre, they sort of don't believe it. So that sort of gives you an idea of the range that we're kind of looking at. So, great questions. Are there any others? Oh, you're saying we got time for one more? I think we're getting the hook, so we got one more question here.
Since you're already flying and gathering these images, I mean, long term, are you also going to return other information like plant health, nutrient deficiencies?
Right.
You know.
Well, that's certainly part of the vision that I think Eric tried to line out, and stand counts is a pretty one that's pretty easily that we can do now. Now that timing probably wouldn't lend itself to a lot of action that could be taken, because if you think about a weed control flight, you're probably 3 weeks after planting, and so it's probably too late to replant. But it could give you some real great back-end analytics to know, hey, what was my final pops? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of the vision. Well, look, this has been fantastic. So on behalf of Eric and myself and the team at Centera, thank you all so much for your attention. The questions were fantastic. We have a booth. We'll actually have the drone there, I think, tomorrow. And Clara said that if you come by, she's got some cool flashlights for you tomorrow. So please stop by and let's try to answer your questions. And thanks again. And you guys have a safe and wonderful Commodity Classic. It's a great way to get it kicked off. So thanks.